This video may contain adult language and situations. Viewer discretion is strongly advised. What is up, my dudes? It's a Reddit Fairy, and I'm back with another episode of r/Stories About Kevin. That's right, we're gonna explore this interesting character that I'm pretty sure each and every one of us knows one of these Kevins. So without further ado, let's get right into it. This first story is called NCO Boot Kevin, posted by user Hewley_N_Dowd. First off, apologies for becoming slightly technical later on in these recollections of mine. It is done for informational purposes only, promise. And if the first season comes off as more like Mike than Kevin, call it a build-up. Now then, off to our tale. This takes place very early in the 90s, during the time I served in the army. Swedish army, so as not to confuse anyone when nomenclature grades, SOP, and such like goes haywire. At conscription, I negged my way into this really odd unit that I had overheard someone talking about somewhere. At 18, I had no idea what I was getting into, other than that this was a place where you go to blow shit up. As it turned out, this place was responsible for development of small unit tactics, equipment evaluations, and weapon systems R&D for the infantry. Basically, mad scientists, mad bombers, and general gun nuts rolled into one, handed a uniform, and given a governmental stamp of approval. Let's start with Season 1. Season 1, Episode 1. NCO conscripts arrive. You know how it is said that first impressions last, and how first impressions never lie. Personally, I'm not, and have never been a great fan of that saying. However, Corporal Kevin soon proved me wrong. From day one, he was going on about how he was a big deal in the amphetamine trade in his hometown, how he could get any girl he wanted and drink more than anyone he knew. And to put a cherry on this, he once stole a car. From that day on, I have always found that to be a great conversation starter when you're about to spend some serious quality time with some guys you don't know and a bunch of stuff that could easily end your life. It's Carnegie level, really. Season 1, Episode 2. The Corporal Kevin begins. As it turns out, Corporal Kevin is exactly as advertised. Corporal Kevin had the notion that rules did not apply to him, unless he was the one setting the rules. So as long as we are at barracks and commissioned officers are in charge of training, he did his best to obstruct, or slack off, or just be a pain in the ass, whichever took the least effort. At this time, corporal punishment, or punishment of any kind really, for misbehavior was a total no-no. However, additional instruction was not a punishment, and so we all got really solid foundation in the joys of belly crawling across the gravel-filled motor pool yard, or fun leapfrog advances across the same. Kneel in gravel, sprint, kneel in gravel, and so on, in full combat gear, gas mask included. For some reason, never fully explained, Corporal Kevin never had to attend the additional instruction. We all assumed that we were to be happy that we had Corporal Kevin, the stellar star of the military Kevinas, among us. Corporal Kevin never understood why we wouldn't invite him to card games, to go drinking and such. Then, once we were booted off into the great wilderness and he got to be squad leader, oh yes, rules now apply. Corporal Kevin rules, of course. Season 1, Episode 3. Corporal Kevin takes the lead. I'm not taking watches. I need my sleep. No, you rotate that heavy-ass radio amongst yourselves. I'm the squad leader. I have to be quick on my feet. You need to dig a foxhole for me as well. I have to monitor the radio. Why isn't the tent up already? I need my sleep. Corporal Kevin missed one important thing. This was NCO Boot. We all took turns being squad leader. None of us here on this sub are Kevins, so you can figure the rest of us out for yourselves, right? And this on a week-long exercise. Corporal Kevin was slightly less obnoxious once back at barracks. Season 1, Episode 4. Corporal Kevin and the Great Deer Hunt. This is perhaps the least Kevin thing the good Corporal Kevin did, as he got away with it. However, had he been caught, hellfire, doom, or at least a couple of years in the slammer. So, SOP at this time was that, having come back to barracks and done all of the cleaning, we had final inspection. At this inspection, we handed over the vital piece, and that is direct translation from Swedish, by the way, because I have no idea what it's called elsewhere, of our rifles to the officer in charge. Essentially, the bolt was handed over to the officer, who placed it in a safe. The bolts were placed in a tray, counted, and locked up. And I was left with a really unbalanced metal club that I could park in my locker overnight. Now, somewhere in Corporal Kevin rested a streak of pure genius. This guy managed to, somehow, sneak the bolt out of final inspection and then to home leave, together with the rest of the rifle. We all saw pictures, printed on paper, taken with an analog camera, mind you. These were the dark ages, of him and most likely every single poor deer in his area the following week. And the bastard was right proud of having shot roebuck deer with an AKS on full auto. Corporal Kevin, there will be a reckoning. Oh, Jesus. Oh my goodness. I can't wait to see season 1, episode 5. I'm gonna be following this one. This next one's called A Kevin I've Known for 4 Years. Posted by user Eli the Happy Guy. Hi, this is a disclaimer by me to say I'm sorry if the formatting fucks your eyes. I'm on mobile. Great, now with the Kevin. As is stated in the title, I have known this Kevin for roughly 4 years, and his stupidity never ceases to amaze me. Just recently, Kevin and I were sitting in the same table during lunch, and he asked me, and I quote, "Do you think Area 51 is real?" I asked if he meant, do I think the aliens in Area 51 are real, and he said no, like the actual military base. He thought Area 51 was an urban legend. He didn't believe me that it was a real building until I pulled it up on Google Earth. By the way, he is a high school junior. I have more stories about Kevin if you would like to hear them. Just ask in the comments and I may come back and edit the post if people find it entertaining. I guess we could kind of give him a slide since, I guess what junior in high school is what? Freshman is grade 9, sophomore is grade 10, junior is grade 11. Ooh, he's kind of, I would think at that point you should kind of know, but who knows the way the education system is these days. This next one's called Another Story of My Ex, posted by user NREPPEP. I'm not going to try to pronounce that. This is a 2-for-1. My ex was always terrible about remembering what I would consider relatively basic workplace rules. He had recently been fired from a grocery store for using the store's coupons on top of his discount. This was a big no-no and makes quite a bit of sense. It's double dipping and isn't allowed at a lot of retail workplaces. He figured it would be okay though because he didn't steal the coupons. Customers would give them to him to throw away because they weren't going to be using them. Instead, he just used them and ended up getting fired. I told him, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Shortly thereafter, he picked up a job at a pizza place my best friend was working at. He was somehow coming home with a lot of money when he worked the closing shifts. I assumed it was tips and didn't say anything. One day, he's coming home from work and he's telling me how he gets the extra money and why he loves closing. He tells me the owner of the pizza shop lets him keep all the money from the last delivery. Tip, delivery charge, and pizza charge. Obviously, that makes zero sense to me. This company is already in the hole, so I asked my friend about it. He's also extremely confused. My friend said they're allowed to keep the tip from the last delivery, but not all of the money from it. I knew my boyfriend only listened to less than half of what the owner said when explaining this, which was so typical of him. Only hearing, "You can keep all the money," instead of whatever was actually said, explaining the whole deal. I broached the subject with him and said he should clarify with the owner because it didn't make any sense. He insisted he was allowed to keep all of the money. Finally, after a few days of us going back and forth, I have no idea how he brought it up with the owner, but he was fired for stealing from the company and they withheld his last paycheck. And if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is, and you'll get your dumb ass fired for not realizing it sooner. Okay, was he really that dumb? Was he really that dumb, or was he just really good at playing that dumb? Because, come on. Oh, I don't know. You guys decide with this one, I guess. This next one's called 1 + 2 + 2 + 1, posted by user Technos. Years ago, I worked retail, and much like any store, we did regular inventory counts, with a big store-wide count twice a year. This store-wide count was total bull. We did it while opening, with customers interrupting us, while covering each other's lunches and breaks as the day went on. Still, it only took a couple days each time, and it was only twice a year. In the spring of '94, the company hired Kevin, and thanks to him, we did store-wide inventory 4.5 times that year. Kevin had the standard training all of us did. 1. Each 8-foot section had a sheet with 2 columns on it, product number and quantity. 2. Look at shelf, find product number label, write product number on sheet in column labeled product number. 3. Pick up box from shelf, make sure product number printed on it matches. 4. See how many are in the box and then multiply it by the number of boxes. Write that number down in column labeled quantity. And 5. Take your marker and place a dot on the product number label so that other people can see you'd counted it. Easy enough? Not for Kevin. The first summer inventory was ruined because of his gross undercounting. 4 boxes meant 4 of the product, even if they were boxes of 100 each. Manager sat him down and did the training again. This time, Kevin ruined it by forgetting to mark labels, resulting in double and triple counting of parts. The third summer inventory was okay, mostly because it was done on Kevin's days off. Winter rolled around and it was time for another inventory. Fortunately, our manager remembered Kevin's previous difficulties and spent an hour with him the first day, making sure he was doing it right. This Kevin knows no bounds, however. Occasionally, when we'd order boxes of bolts from our distributor, they'd number the boxes to make sure they had them all. Kevin would ignore the clearly printed quantity, 25, and instead use the big, handwritten number from the box. So 3 just ordered boxes of 25 were counted as 1 + 2 + 3 = 6. Massive undercount once again. Hell really broke loose when Kevin hit the pipe bits supplied by another company. They marked their shipments 1 quarter, 2 quarters, etc. Kevin broke out a calculator to convert those fractions to decimals and then added all the decimals up. The manager at least had a backup plan. He'd assigned Kevin a marker color different than those the rest of us had, so we could easily toss out anything Kevin thought he had done and do it again ourselves. Sadly, Kevin remained with the company 5 more months. Happily, however, he got himself fired the week before summer inventory 95 by showing off the world's tiniest toothpick spliff to the manager and I. What? Oh no, Kevin. Yeah, either I don't want to say he smoked all his brain cells away because I don't believe in that whole propaganda about. I think were missing those brain cells to begin with before you started smoking, or I don't know, you're dropped on your head, but it's not because of the smoking. And the next story is called An Update to Kevin, the Failed Intern. Posted by user Salvefrater? Salfrater? I don't know. Anyway, let's get into it. In my last post, I talked about Kevin, the intern, who managed to lose any chance of getting a job by yelling at the CEO, beating up a vending machine, and lying about his intentions. I thought I had seen the last of Kevin, but the organization we both interned for was holding its annual conference and they needed help staffing the event. So Kevin came back not even a week after his last day. I heard or witnessed so many more Kevin stories over the course of this conference that I felt compelled to make an update. Other people who had to interact with Kevin on a daily basis filled me in on how he got hired and his daily routine. Kevin had heard about the internship when he talked to the retiring CEO at an event. This was a short 15-second talk while they took a photo together, but Kevin interpreted this as a job offer and was angry when he didn't hear back a few days after sending in his resume. He decided to call up the organization's main representative in his state to complain and request that he bring it up to the CEO to try to get the internship hiring supervisor in trouble. He was finally hired after guilt-tripping the organization by saying he needed this internship to finish his master's degree program. Kevin was majoring in museum studies, and he was placed in the archives department to catalog the museum collection they maintained. The catalog tracked where each item was kept in the building. Kevin, despite only being an intern, decided to completely change the system they used, which meant the other intern had spent countless hours cataloging every item back into the new system. Kevin would also routinely stare at her, and when she asked why, he said it was a prank. "What? Am I not allowed to mess with you?" He also deleted the part of the catalog that listed what building the item was in, because everything was in the same building and felt redundant to him. This led to all the other categories like room and cabinet number being mixed up and inaccurate. Once again, the other intern had to fix this entire system. After a long day at the conference, we were all getting ready to go home. I was in the middle of talking to someone when Kevin comes over and grabs me by the jacket to lift up my label pin to his face. Kevin is at least 5 inches taller and 200 pounds heavier than me, so he's about to lift me off the ground. "I've been wondering all day what this pin was." I am too stunned to respond, so someone else explained what it was. He lets me go, only to grab me again to get a second look. Kevin leaves to give a ride home to another intern. He starts talking about Harvard, which he thought was in Michigan. Of course, not everyone knows where Harvard is, but this man plans on working in a field where the only two options are academia or museums. Also, his profile picture has a caption saying, "Stand up to Harvard" in bold red font. The last night of the conference, everyone was invited to a black-tie dinner at a fancy hotel. Kevin manages to beg his way into getting a free ticket for his fiancée, Kevina, when every other intern only got a ticket for themselves. He introduces us to Kevina and says one of the interns is from Guam. This intern had actually lived in Guatemala, not Guam, for a few years and corrected him. He responded, "Same thing, they're both islands where they speak Spanish." Everyone else at the table was too dumbfounded to even try and tell him that Guatemala is not an island and they don't speak Spanish on Guam. There was also a delegation of people from Guam at this dinner. Kevina, while speaking very slowly and pronouncing every syllable, asked if she missed home. This intern again tries to explain that she's American and just lived in Guatemala for a few years, but it wasn't getting through to Kevinas' thick skull. When the salad came, I accidentally grabbed the wrong fork. Kevin scoffs and tells his boss, "We need to teach these interns some manners and etiquette." Remember, this is less than 24 hours after he grabbed me with no warning to look at a shiny pin on my jacket. The main course was steak and fish. Kevina poked at her plate and said, "This is some weird food," without a hint of irony. That ends the story of Kevin and Kevina, at least for now. If I ever have to interact with this man again, I might just break down into a ball. Sounds like it. Oh my god, and they found each other. Oh god. This next one's called Kevin Does a Report About an Animal Local to Our Area, posted by user Axe154. Kevin was a senior in high school and was assigned to do a report on an animal local to our area. The area being a small town in Canada in Ontario that borders with Buffalo, New York. Guessing Niagara Falls. Fast forward 2 weeks, when the reports were returned to the class. Kevin was sad to see he received a grade of F. He said that he put a lot of effort into it and couldn't understand why he got such a bad grade. I asked him to see his report to see if I could figure out what may have happened. What animal local to Southern Ontario did he choose to do his report on? A friggin' giraffe. I was laughing and confused about how he could pick a giraffe as a local animal when I got his answer. He had seen one just the other day while driving. Realizing where the story was going, I stifled laughter as I explained to him that yes, he saw a giraffe, but it was at the small local zoo. 15 years later, and I still don't think he realizes why he failed that project. Kevin was the kind of guy who would try to save a fish from drowning. Well, at least he liked animals, I guess. But that's like going to African lion safari and thinking that where is that anyway? Is that in Waterloo, African lion safari? That's like thinking the lions are local to Waterloo, if that's the case. And for the final story of the day, 2 Kevinas Go Shopping, posted by user Pedantic Pterodactyl. So earlier today, I was going grocery shopping. Because of the store layout, you pretty much have to walk through the wine aisle in order to get to the snacks. I don't drink myself, but as I walk through, I occasionally have a look at some of the fancy bottles. As I do so, 2 women in their late 30s that look like they want to see the manager walk past me, discussing wine. Their discussion, Kevina 1. No, darling, you don't buy rose wine, you make it. Kevina 2. Make it? Kevina 1. Yeah, it's easy. You buy a bottle of red and a bottle of white and just mix them. I casually follow so I can hear more. Kevina 2. Is that how the winers do it? Yes, that's the word she used. Kevina 1. Of course it is. You know I know this stuff. Kevina 2. I always thought it was made from different colored grapes. You know, white, red, and pink. Kevina 1. What? Grapes only come in one color, silly. The white ones just aren't ripe yet. You let them sit at home like bananas until they go red. Sadly, at this point, they switched topics to something else, but holy shit, what a conversation. My first Kevinas in the wild. I'm sorry, those voices were awful, but every time I see people, like, these seem like this should be more in like a, I don't even know. This is definitely a Kevin or Kevina, but it's also like a Karen too, so. Oh my goodness. Just mix them together, folks. Just mix them. All right, my dudes, that's all the stories I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed that subreddit. I'm going to be, I think I'm going to be posting quite a few of the r/stories about Kevin from that subreddit there. I fucking love it. It just, I just giggle so much after reading these stories. I just, yeah, there's going to be more. So stay tuned for those. As always, if you liked it, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and the bell notification to be notified when I have future videos just like this coming out so you never miss one. Blah, 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 blah. Also, I have the links to all the stories I read in the description, so head on over to Reddit, show those posters some love by upvoting their stories. Please, please, please give them some upvotes. They deserve it. And while you are sitting there in the enchanted land of Reddit, head on over to r/Reddit Fairy and submit your stories there. Because you never know, it just might show up in the next video. I've also been told that some of you enjoy karaoke just as much as I do, so I've in the description I've also got my Smule username, so come on over to Smule and sing with me. I think I have a couple songs up. If not, check back. I usually do have one or two up. So until next time, rest easy, my dudes.